Thank you all for coming. It's been such an interesting year, but we're so happy we have something to celebrate and we can do it with close friends. It's been a long haul. Really proud of Ren for all the work he's done. And it's going to be a great service. Participate. And again, just thank you all. Really touched that you could all be here.
Dan said, we're happy for you guys to be here, but unfortunately some part of the family would not be able to make it because of the COVID, whether they are in different states or different countries. So with my folks in Thailand, we know they are here with us in spirit. And I just like to say a few words with them. ก็พ่อกับแม่กับยุ้ยนะถึงแม้ว่าวันนี้จะไม่ได้มาอยู่ตรงนี้ด้วยกันนะแต่ก็รู้ว่ายังส่งใจมาแล้วให้กำลังใจรินก็วันนี้หลังจากเสร็จวันนี้จะเอาภาพบันทึกภาพไปให้ดู
Hi, thank you all for coming. The service will be an hour and a half. But if you need to use the restrooms, you will go up into the building and then go straight, and then on the right there will be a bathroom. Also, please turn off your cell phones so you don't disturb the service. And remember to sing and read along in the booklets you have now.
Thank you. And also just want to introduce for everyone Cantor Lisa and Evan Hershenhorn, who's been helping out and shown great perseverance with us through this whole thing as well. So thank you. Looking forward to it.
Please join us on page 2 for Hine Mato. Behold how good it is to be together. Hine Mato Manayim Sheverachim Gam Yahad. Hine Mato Manayim Sheverachim Gam Yahad. Hine Mato Sheverachim Gam Yahad. Hine Mato Sheverachim Gam Yahad. Hine Mato Manayim Sheverachim Gam Yahad. Hine Mato Manayim Sheverachim Gam Yahad. How good it is and how pleasant when we all dwell together as one. Shabbat Shalom is the greeting of the day, a greeting of peace and joy. Please join Bela and me in singing Shabbat Shalom. Bim bom, bim 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 bom, bim 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 bom. Bim bom, bim 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 bom, bim 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 bom. Shabbat Shalom, hey, Shabbat Shalom, hey, Shabbat, 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 Shabbat Shalom. Shabbat Shalom, hey, Shabbat Shalom, hey, Shabbat, 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 Shabbat Shalom. Shabbat, 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 Shabbat Shalom. Shabbat, 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 Shabbat Shalom. Shabbat Shalom, hey, Shabbat Shalom, hey, Shabbat, 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 Shabbat Shalom. Bim bom, bim 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 bom, bim 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 bom. Bim bom, bim 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 bom, bim 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 bom. According to the Jewish calendar, Saturday is considered the seventh day of the week. This day is known as Shabbat, or in English, Sabbath, the day of rest. I wish you all Shabbat Shalom, a Sabbath peace.
Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat means to stop, to rest.
Shabbat is the time we pause to be grateful for ourselves.
Shabbat is about being in the moment and not worrying about the future.
Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom, may you find an inner calm that deepens connection and meaning in your life. On Shabbat, we also focus on what we are grateful for. I'm grateful for my family and friends, and that you are all here with me today. Please join me in Vishamru, a prayer of gratitude for the Sabbath. Vishamru v'nei Israel et ha-Shabbat la'aseh et ha-Shabbat l'dor tamri olam. Vishamru v'nei Israel et ha-Shabbat la'aseh et ha-Shabbat l'dor tamri olam. Beni uvein b'nei Israel oti le'olam. Vishamru v'nei Israel et ha-Shabbat la'aseh et ha-Shabbat l'dor tamri olam. Kishesha yamim asa Adonai et hashamayim ve'et haaretz. Vishamru v'nei Israel et ha-Shabbat la'aseh et ha-Shabbat l'dor tamri olam. Uvayom hashpi'i Shabbat v'yinafash Shabbat v'yinafash. Vishamru v'nei Israel et ha-Shabbat la'aseh et ha-Shabbat l'dor tamri olam. Vishamru v'nei Israel et ha-Shabbat la'aseh et ha-Shabbat l'dor tamri olam.
Continue with the blessings of appreciation, which continue our Shabbat theme of gratitude. Rena, you'll lead us in the Hebrew, and we will all respond to where it says all in the English.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam. Blessed art thou, source of life, we thank you.
For the beauty of the forest and sea, mountain and meadow, rain and sun. Amen.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam.
The blessings of joy and peace, meditation of laughter. Amen.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam.
For the blessings of friendship and love, of family and community.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam.
For the blessings we recognize and those we fail to recognize.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam.
For the blessings of memory, vision, and hope. Amen.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam. For all these blessings which surround us on every side, we offer you thanks. Lord, honor and accept our gratitude. Amen.
The following song on page 6, O Yavod Shalom Aleinu, Peace Will Come Upon Us, is an Israeli folk song which is both a hope and a prayer for peace in our world. It uses both the Hebrew and Arabic words for peace, shalom and salam, and it's also a song that's often taught at the Hebrew school that Rin went to, the PGEF Hebrew school. Rin, if you lead us in O Yavod Shalom Aleinu.
Ojabo shalom aleinu. Ojabo shalom aleinu. Ojabo shalom aleinu ve'al kulam. Ojabo shalom aleinu. Ojabo shalom aleinu. Ojabo shalom aleinu ve'al kulam. Salam aleinu ve'al kol ha'olam. Salam, salam. Salam aleinu ve'al kol ha'olam. Salam, salam. Ojabo shalom aleinu. Ojabo shalom aleinu. Ojabo shalom aleinu ve'al kulam. Ojabo shalom aleinu. Ojabo shalom aleinu. Ojabo shalom aleinu ve'al kulam. Peace will come upon us and on everyone. Shalom, salam.
Rin, in preparing for today, as you know, you've done a lot of thinking and reflecting on who you you are as a person. One of the things that you're asked as a bar mitzvah is to reflect upon your core values. Please share those with us now.
To prepare for today, I've thought about my core values, which I will share with you now. My first core value is family and friends, which are important to me because they are always there for me or by my side when I need them. They also give me the opportunity to give back to them, and in this way I learn the importance of giving as well as receiving. Every time I go and see my family, happiness and joy builds up in me, which I am grateful for. My second core value is social and economic justice, which is important to me because they are vital to a good community and ecosystem, and without these key components, life couldn't be the same. These many years when I visited Thailand and gone to orphanages and volunteered helping out serving food and drinks, I've noticed that their living space is not sufficient to their needs. I realize that sometimes we take what we have for granted, and we should take at least some time to help others who are not as fortunate as ourselves. My third core value is creativity and learning, which is important to me because it gives opportunities for future success. And because education is so important, I believe everyone deserves a fair schooling to learn and get a job and build a future for them and their family. Creativity is also important to me because the ability to imagine and develop ideas is a very important skill when it comes to arts and literature. When I travel to different places around the world, I've been able to learn about different cultures, and that has allowed me to expand my mind and creativity and shape my point of view, which is important to me. As I mentioned, family is one of my core values. Will my grandfather please come up to read Reflection on Family?
Good afternoon. I have about 2 pages of notes, and most of them are simple. I'm just going to go to some key points. But one of them recently was when Ren had been taking through this morning, and he didn't like doing it because he felt that he couldn't show his ability with everybody else participate and whatever. And then with COVID, one of the very few things that was pertinent was that he was asked to do single man crew, and I was lucky enough to take him and pick him up. And he was so enthused about doing single man crew, about putting out his effort and showing what he alone could do. And his coach was so pleased with how well he did and was so positive in his comments. And that just made Rin feel so good. And which reminds us that it's always nice to give positive comments to people. But it was nice that when you had your opportunity to show what you could do in crew, that you really rose to the occasion, and you were very proud of it. Okay. Valerie. COVID-19. It's a horrible time at your young age, but it is horrible for all of us. But today is a positive event, and we compliment you on your great start to becoming an adult and becoming a positive person as an adult. You have 2 parents who have shown us what is possible with hard work and determination. I think of your father. I think of the time I went to his softball game and watched him in the outfield, watching the grass grow, and said, you better stick to academics. it is amazing how we turn out and why we turn out the way we do. I'm very optimistic for you. You have so many good traits. You are so kind to your cousins, being very caring and nurturing. You can hold an infant with more ease than I can. You are a natural. And someday you will realize that your sister isn't really an evil witch and that your parents really do love you very, very much. It all comes with age and maturity. The older I get, the smarter I realize that my parents were. And coming to an end, the best part of being a grandparent is to watch and observe. It's so wonderful to watch my grandchildren interact and grow. Rin, enjoy each day to come and make the most of it. I wish you the best.
Ellen, if you'll stay up here for a moment, because just in a moment we're going to be presenting Ren with his tallit. The tallit is the prayer shawl that is something that is worn when one becomes a bar mitzvah. I understand this particular prayer shawl is one that has some family history, that it was used at many joyous occasions. Yes. And so we invite up Dan to stand next to you, Alan. And if Josh would also come up. And Josh, I believe you're going to be leading the tallit ceremony by doing a reading and saying the blessing. So why don't I'm going to have you just sort of hold the tallit. You'll hold this side of it, and then you just hold it over Ren until the blessing is said.
As we wrap you in your tallit, we all wrap you in our pride and joy and the great love of our family. Cloak yourself today with the warmth of the tallit. Continue to wear it with honor and respect. Let its presence add to your wisdom, guide you to sound judgment, and experience the gift it bestows. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kitzanu b'mitzvotav, v'tzivanu v'hitativ v'tzitzit.
Amen.
Blessed art thou, source of life, who makes us holy with your commandments, and bids us to wrap ourselves in the fringed garment.
Now, Josh, if you would share some words with Ren.
Rin, I remember when you were born, in your first several years of life, quite vividly. Your early days in JP, then in Linfield, where we lived together, then in Newton, where we also lived together. Those days were defined by the feeling that something in my life that had been missing now existed. As the youngest of three, I never had a younger brother or sister. Although you were not my baby brother, as my first nephew, you were something truly special. I remember thinking continually that for the first time in my life, maybe I'd be fine not having kids of my own. All I needed was the relationship I had with you. In those early years, we were very close and spent lots of time together. We talked about things that made you feel scared and uncertain. And just as much time talking about mindless things or nothing at all. I knew this time was fleeting. And inevitably, we would both grow up, and other people and other things would take this time from us. I love this time we spent together, and appreciate more than ever, the time we spend together now. We have both grown up since those early days, but my love for you and my willingness to be there for you whenever you need someone has not changed. So here you are, 13 years old. Today is the day you become a bar mitzvah. From this point forward, you are responsible for observing the commandments. I remember being 13 and standing here, just like you. I remember the rabbi saying, "This is a special day because this is the day our religion tells us we become an adult. He put his hands on my shoulders and said, "These shoulders, though they are not very broad, must now support a portion of the weight of the world." 27 years ago, when I became a bar mitzvah, my shoulders were not as Gronkowski-like as they are today. In fact, they were not even as broad as yours are now. And that was fine, because they did not need to be. A 13-year-old 27 years ago was not an adult. Judaism might have told us we were, but by and large, we were not. Unlike you, my shoulders did not need to be strong enough to support the weight of social media, pandemics, Zoom, a divisive political landscape, cancel culture, a 24-hour news cycle in your pocket, parents and friends being in constant contact with you, and tech companies knowing your every move. Life was good when I was 13. Our parents threw us a party, we got lots of presents, danced awkwardly with a girl from school, drank 6 Shirley Temples, and then went on living innocent lives. At 13, you and your friends do not have this luxury. For better or worse, your family, your friends, your community, and the world have decided that in 2020, 13-year-olds need to be adults. But history may be on your side. The Torah tells us that in the year 100 BCE, Joseph, half-brother of Naphtali, was sold into slavery when he was not much older than you. Not a great way to spend your teenage years. But the world is filled with people who faced challenges before they felt ready. Many persevered. You will still have many moments where all the stress and the pressure and the absurdity will fade, and life will feel carefree, mindless, simple, euphoric, and hilarious. Enjoy these moments, but have confidence in knowing your shoulders are broad, you are strong, you are capable, you are ready, you are offensive.
Josh, if you'll stay up there and read with Ren the Obligations Without Measure, which is an ancient rabbinic reading that speaks to the core values of Judaism and what the Kali symbolizes. Ren, if you'll lead, and then Josh, if you'll lead us in the Om.
These are the obligations without measure, whose reward too is without measure, to honor our parents, to perform acts of love and kindness,
To welcome a stranger, to visit the sick,
to rejoice with family and friends, to console the bereaved and bury the dead.
to pursue knowledge and wisdom, to make peace when there is strife. By these acts, we are reminded of how to sanctify the journey of the lives.
As I mentioned earlier, one of my core values includes justice, which includes the protection of nature. Would my Aunt Jess please come up to read Judaism on Nature?
Or maybe you want to come around and support this with your thing. Yeah, why don't you come over there?
Judaism on nature. What does Judaism teach us about appreciating nature? How does Judaism challenge us to be better stewards of the environment, to not only step back and notice the beauty of the river, the stream, the mountain, and skyline, but also be inspired to guard and protect these amazing and life-sustaining gifts? Rabbi Nachman of Wrocław asked that we pray outside at least once a day in order to be in touch with nature, to be awed by it, to be connected to it, and to remember our responsibility to protect it. Moses in the Torah speaks about obligations to the animals and plants that surround us, reminding us that in Genesis we are charged with being stewards, not dominators of the land. And on Shabbat, on this day, we join together in song, praising nature, thanking the divine for the gift of nature, and we conclude the service by asking ourselves not to take our words lightly. Kol HaShabbat, Kol HaLayla. All of nature is filled with soul and song. Hallelujah. many people who come into your life and change it, and even fewer who can do this in their first few years of life. Yet this was Rin for me. I had been on the fence about wanting kids for a long time, but in such a short time, Rin changed all of that. In what felt like nearly an instant, I fell in love with his smile that radiated his sweet, subtle exuberance, his hugs that filled the soul as if it held all the love in the universe, and really his whole being, with such depth and joyous presence and sensitive wisdom. I knew that if I could love my kids half as much as I loved Ren, it was worth it. And it was. Ren, I know I sound like I'm 92 when I say that it's been so wonderful to watch you grow up and all those beautiful qualities manifest in such incredible ways, but it's true. You no longer sprint up to me, jump into my arms, and wrap yours around me, which is probably a good thing because you're huge. But the love I see in your eyes and the love I see right back in my boys' eyes every time they see you is immense. I'm always going to be here for you, in your corner, believing in you, and here in any and every way you need. I love you so amazingly much, Ren. We all do. And even if you don't know this right now, you're bound to.
We join together in Hallelujah, a song of praise of nature. Noticing this beautiful sanctuary we're in. And Ren, you're helping to make this day a very, very holy and special day. Then will you, Ren, will you lead us in Hallelujah?
Hallelujah, hallelujah, hallelujah. Hallelujah, hallelujah, hallelujah. Hallelujah, hallelujah, hallelujah. Hallelujah, hallelujah, hallelujah. Hallelujah, hallelujah. Hallelujah, hallelujah, hallelujah. Hallelujah, hallelujah, hallelujah. Hallelujah, hallelujah, hallelujah. All of creation sings your praise.
Now invite up your parents to say the parent blessing, although there's a community response on page 9.
We wish for you to be a person of character, strong but not tough, gentle but not weak. We wish for you to be righteous but not self-righteous, honest but not unforgiving.
Wherever your journey, may your steps be firm, and may you walk in just paths and not be afraid.
May your hands feel and your heart preserve what is good and beautiful in our world.
May you know that there is a rich heritage from that sacred place that you connected to all who dwell on earth.
Then I'm going to invite you to be seated with your family as Lisa sings Lechi Lah. These are the opening words of the story of Abraham and Sarah, the first Hebrews or first Jewish people, and their story begins with the blessing and the promise of a full life. Of course, is what we wish for you, Rich. Lisa, if you'll sing Lechi Lah.
If you know it, feel free to join in. Let me belong to a land that I will show you. Let me fall to a place you do not know. Let me belong on your journey.
Will my cousins Wolfie and Winston please come up to read, working together?
We have the power to change things. It doesn't take much to startle a revolution of thought and spirit. It takes one person, then another, and then another. We have to have the willingness to be respectful to each other, to celebrate our differences and not let differences become obstacles. It's a responsibility and a chore. But when it works, it's a work of art.
We're on page 11. The path for Hetzi Kaddish is a meditation on joy and inclusion. The Hetzi Kaddish is meant to help us transition from the opening service into the formal prayer service, which we're about to begin. The Hetzi Kaddish helps us transition by honoring the themes of Shabbat, which we've already sung and read, themes of joy, themes of being welcomed and celebrated for who we are and what we value. The Hetzi Kaddish also acknowledges that there's much more to say about these values of inclusion and joy, and at the same time directs us to move our attention towards the four prayers of the Shabbat service, which begin on the following page, with their focus on love and deepening our gratitude. Please join Rin in the responsive call-outs that punctuate the Hetzi Kaddish. You can find them bolded in the transliteration below. Rin, if you'll lead us both in the Hetzi Kaddish and then also following that by leading us in the prayer service today.
Ikeda v'ikadash shmei rabba Bama divra hirte Yamlich malchute Bechayechon yomechon Ufayedecho be Israel Ba'agala Uvizma'an ka'ariv Vimru amen Yahei shmei rabba mavara La'alam ul'almei almaya Yipara v'ishtaba V'itpa'ar v'yitromam v'yitnaseh V'yihada'ar v'yihale'eh v'yihala'a Shmei dekudusha brihu Le'ela min kol birhata v'shirata Tush v'hata v'nehemata Da'amiran ba'ama Bimru amen. The Baruch is the formal call to prayer. It reminds us to see our lives as a sacred and meaningful gift. Please rise.
We're on page 12.
Baruch it Adonai Habarah.
Baruch Adonai Baruch Le'olam Va'ed.
Baruch Adonai Habarah Le'olam Va'ed. Praise God, the Blessed One. Praise be God, who is blessed throughout all time. Please be seated.
As mentioned before, our prayer service focuses on love and gratitude. The opening meditation, Baha Erinenu, abundant love, will be sung by
Will my sister Vela please come up to read a reflection on love?
Teach us to search for the fine qualities in others, to recognize the immeasurable worth job of sleeping He was always there to help. Sometimes I would rather have him that help me than my parents, because Rin stays more calm. Rin and I play together a lot. Some of our favorite things to do is basketball and sword fighting. We also like to watch movies together. Some of our favorite movies to watch together are the Star Wars and Avengers series. Rin is around, so I always have someone to talk to. When it's time for bed, we are in our room chatting. When we go on trips, Rin is my travel partner, and he makes every trip better. Rin is one of the most important people in my life. Thank you for making my life better. Sometimes we can be annoying to each other and have fights, but deep down, inside we know we still love each other. Rin is the best. Woo!
The Shema Ve'ahavta, which we will say in just a moment, uses the imagery of love to remind us of who we are and who we strive to become. Moses spoke these words to the Israelites and adds that he is also speaking to all future generations who follow the one God, holding out a model for each of us to try and live our lives with complete respect towards ourselves and towards our fellow person and the entire natural world around us. Please join me in Shema and Ve'ahavta, if it is your own tradition, or use this time to think of your highest ideals and values. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad, Baruch Shem Kavod, Malchuto Leolam Va'ed. Hear, O Israel, the Lord our God, the Lord is one. Blessed be the name of glory of God's kingdom throughout all time.
Continue with the Ve'ahavta on page 14, the Creed of Living by One's Highest Values. And we will be saying that quietly afterwards in English. And if you'll lead us, we will join them.
Ve'ahavta et Adonai Elohecha b'chol levacha u'b'chol nafshecha u'b'chol me'odecha v'hayu hadrim ha'ere asher Elohim yitzavecha hayom al vavecha v'shentam levanecha v'dibarta bam v'shitecha v'veitecha uv'vechtecha v'derech uv'shokvecha uv'kumecha uv'shartam le'ot al yedecha v'hayu le'totefo b'neinecha uv'tavtam al mezuzot beitecha uv'isharecha Laman tiskru va'asitem et kol mitzvotai v'yitem kadoshim le'Elohechem Ani Adonai Elohechem asher hodseti ehen ma'eretz Mitzrayim liot lachem le'Elohim Ani Adonai Elohechem.
We read the interpretive translation of the Ve'ahavta, the prayer that was just recited in Hebrew. Let's read it quietly for ourselves. Page 15. Mi Hamocha was sung as the Israelites left the bonds of slavery and walked towards freedom. The words state, "Who is like you, O God?" reminding us to cherish our own freedom and to work towards the time that all the world is free. Join together in Mi
Mi
Hamocha.
hamocha ba'elim Adonai, mi hamocha nezar v'chodesh, Norat tehilot o seferle, Norat tehilot o seferle. Hamocha ba'elim Adonai, mi hamocha nezar v'chodesh, Norat tehilot o seferle, Norat tehilot o seferle. The Amidah consists of a grouping of prayers that form the central core of the Jewish prayer service. We begin the Amidah with the Avot V'Imachot, a prayer that reminds us that each of our parents, grandparents, and those who came before them had their own spiritual journey, and each of them learned important lessons about meaning and love along the way. Here we are, asked to see our lives' journey in a similar way, guided by those who came before us, and open to the beauty and mystery of the universe around us. Please rise. Hatar Onai, Elohei, Elohei Avotenu, Ve'imotenu, Elohei Abraham, Elohei Yitzchak, Elohei Rachel, Elohei Rachel, Elohei Leah, Ha'el HaGadol, HaGibor, Va'anora, El Yom, Gomer Hasidim Tovim, V'konei HaKol, V'zocher Hastei Avot, V'imahut, Umeju Ge'ula, V'devehem, La'on Shmo, Va'al Haba, Melech Ozer, Moshe, Umagen. V'hatar Onai, Magen, Abraham, Ve'ezra Sarah. The giver wrote, the second prayer of the Amidah focuses on kind acts. The Amidah's primary focus on Shabbat is on gratitude, and the giver wrote prayer offers us a chance to give thanks for those who have supported us recently and throughout the week. Please join us. Atagi bor le'olam Adonai, v'chayei mesim atara b'lechoshia, v'chayei halim ba'esed, v'chayei mesim b'rahamim rabim. Somech noflim v'rofei olim, u'matir asurim, u'mekayem emunato b'shenei afar, michamocha fa'aguru, u'mida omerla, melech lemi u'hahayeh, u'matmiach Yeshua, v'ne'eman, atal hahayot metim. B'ra'at Adonai, v'chayei ha'kol.
Page 17, there is the Giverut reflection. Let's read it together out loud. What is kindness?
The giver begins the discussion with kindness as it then goes on a list of examples of kind people, even those who are struggling and get forgotten. The Kedusha prayer, which follows the Avot of Gabriel, reminds us that sharing from the heart is one of the holiest acts one can do. Lisa will lead us in the Kedusha.
At the bottom of page 17, there is a reading for silent meditation. Take the time to do the reading or time for your own personal reflections. Our focus in the prayer service, of course, is gratitude and love, but you can use it however you wish. You may be seated for this portion of the prayer. On page 18, there's a prayer and meditation on physical, emotional, and spiritual healing in our time of COVID, among many other trials that some of us are facing and others in our community and the world. Lisa will lead us in healing. And I hope you'll hold those who are dear to you in your heart as you sing the Misha Bera.
Help us find the strength to make our lives a blessing, and let us say, Amen. Mishabero, Timoteinu, Nikor Habraha, Slavoteinu, bless those in need of healing with refuah Slema, the renewal of body, the renewal of spirit, and let us say, Amen.
Then if you'll come up to conclude the prayer service and help us transition into the Torah service. We're on page 18, the Song of Peace, Oseh Shalom.
Oseh Shalom Bimruav, Hu Yaseh Shalom Aleinu, Ve'achol Yisrael Bimru Amen. Yaseh Shalom, Yaseh Shalom, Shalom Aleinu, Ve'achol Yisrael, Yaseh Shalom, Yaseh Shalom, Shalom Aleinu, Ve'achol Yisrael. May the one who causes peace to reign in the high heavens, let peace descend on us and on Israel. And let us say Amen.
Then I'd like to invite you to stand in front of the table again. And in a moment, we're going to be inviting up your parents and your uncle and aunt and your grandfather for the passing of the Torah from generation to generation. Under this talit, like the talit around your shoulders, is a scroll that carries the stories of our people from ancient times. You, as a bar mitzvah, are asked to tell that story as it's been told for thousands of years, chanting it in the Hebrew, and then being put in the position of teacher, offering insights on that particular story. Your Uncle Josh, I don't know if he knew that your portion was Joseph. He made a reference to the Joseph story. Didn't? Well done, well done. So your portion today, as you well know, you've studied the portion of Joseph very well. And it's with great pleasure that I invite up your parents to stand next to you, your Aunt Jess to stand on the far side, and your grandfather on the far side. And Lisa will sing the Dor Vador from generation to generation. There's our play Layla, if you would come up to uncover the Torah, and Josh, if you would come up for the passing of the Torah from generation to generation. Rise in the community for Keep Sion, page 19, taking of the Torah.
Keep Sion, Tetzei Torah. Keep Sion, Tetzei Torah. Udvar Adonai, Yishalayim. Shinatan Torah, Torah. Shinatan Torah, Torah, Lamo Israel, Itishator.
Torah, 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 Tzivah Lanu Moshe.
And Rin is going to lead us on page 20 in the Shema. It's a responsive Shema. We'll be calling out and we'll be calling back. And then after that, you will process through the community. And this is actually kind of a reenactment of Moses receiving the tablets and bringing it down to the people of Israel. So Rin, I'm going to hold this out here for you. And after you do it, then you will process, and your family will come behind. You can touch the Torah like this when Ren is walking by, or choose to shake the hand of a family member or give them an elbow, however you want to do it. And if you'll do the Shema.
Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad.
Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad.
Echad Eloheinu, Gadol Adonai, Kadosh Shemo.
Echad Eloheinu, Gadol Adonai, Kadosh Shemo.
Gadlu Adonai Yisi, Rom Mashma Yakta.
And if you'll begin the procession, at least we'll sing Lecha Adonai.
Lecha Adonai, Hallelujah, Adonai Eloheinu, V'yisakavu, V'yisakavu, Romamu, Adonai Eloheinu, V'yisakavu, V'yisakavu, Kadosh Adonai Eloheinu.
You may be seated. And Ren, if you will please share a summary of your Torah portion. About essentially what you're about to read.
My Torah portion is called the Vaishav and is found in the book of Genesis, chapters 37 to 41. Vaishav means to be settled in the land and refers to Jacob's returning with his family to the land of Canaan, which will later be called the land of Israel. The idea of being settled or at peace is not the way things play out. Jacob's 12 sons quarrel and are plagued by jealousy, especially regarding their second youngest son named Joseph. Joseph's situation gets worse as he shares his dreams with his brothers that someday they will all bow down to him. He has several of these dreams, and each time he shares them, his brothers get angrier. Eventually, things get so bad that the 10 oldest sons end up throwing Joseph into a pit and then selling Joseph into Egyptian slavery. The section of the Joseph story I will be reading from today finds Joseph locked up in an Egyptian prison with little hope of escape. Sometime later, the cupbearer and baker falsely angered the Pharaoh and were thrown in jail. That night, the cupbearer and baker both had dreams with their own meaning, but there was no one to interpret them, and they were upset by this. But when Joseph came to them and found out what was wrong, he offered to interpret the dreams for them. So the cupbearer told Joseph his dream. He said that in his dream there was a vine in front of him, and on that vine were 3 branches which had barely budded, and its clusters grew into grapes, and the Pharaoh's cup was in his hand. So he pressed the grapes into the cup, and placed the cup into the Pharaoh's hand. Joseph thought about this for a little time, and sure enough, he had made a conclusion that in which 3 days the Pharaoh would pardon the cupbearer and restore him to his duties. After he told this to the cupbearer, he asked if he would mention his name to Pharaoh, so the Pharaoh might set Joseph free. So the cupbearer agreed. The baker, seeing how Joseph interpreted dreams, told his dream. In the baker's dream, there were 3 open work baskets on top of his head, and the top basket was full of food, and birds were eating out of it. Joseph also thought about this for a short moment, when he came up with the interpretation. Joseph said that the 3 baskets were 3 days, and in 3 days the Pharaoh would cut off his head. Over the next 3 days, Joseph was correct about both dreams, and on the Pharaoh's birthday, the Pharaoh had a dream that no one could interpret. This is where the cupbearer remembered Joseph for his talents and mentioned him to Pharaoh. After I read from the Vesha that deals with Joseph's interaction with the cupbearer and baker, I will discuss what I think about how Joseph handles himself in prison. I will also share my thoughts on how the story plays out with regards to Joseph being set free and eventually reunited with his family. Now I'll read from Torah.
So if you're interested, Rin's reading can be found on page 22. You can follow along in the English or the Hebrew. And we've divided the reading up into 3 sections. So sentence 1 through 3 will be the first reading, 4 through 6 will be the second, and 7 through 9. Again, that's on page 22. And on page 21 is the blessing before the reading. This will happen 4 times because we're doing 4 readings. So for the first honor of saying the blessing before, we call up your grandfather, Alan. So if you'll stand right here, Ren. Ya'amod la'aliyah rishon. Alan. And Rin's going to show you where he's going to be reading from. Again, you can follow on page 21. But Alan's going to say the blessing, and there is a response on page 21 for all of us to respond to. Baruch Adonai HaBarach Le'olam Va'ed.
Baruch Adonai HaBarach Le'olam Va'ed. Baruch Adonai Eloheinu Asher b'chachonu v'torami v'natan lanu Torah. Baruch Adonai Noten HaTorah.
Amen.
Vahi ahar hadrim ha'ela ad uru mashtem melch Mitzrayim v'alfa le'arehem melch Mitzrayim v'yikso paro al sheni sarsav asar hamashtim v'asar halfim v'yiten otam b'mishmar bei sar ha'tabahim el beit ha'sohar v'kol asher yosef asur sham.
So your grandfather already finished. He wants to touch it with your college.
Baruch Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam Asher natan lanu Torah v'chayei olam natan v'suchenu Baruch Adonai Noten HaTorah.
Then you can congratulate your grandfather. Now we invite you to be seated. For the second honor of being called up to the Torah, that will be reading sentences 4, 5, and 6. We call up the people. We're calling up your aunt and uncle. Ya'amdu la'aliyah sheni, Jesh and Josh. Ya'amdu. And if you'll show them in the scroll where you're reading from. It should be noted when you read from the scroll, you're not reading with vowels, and it's a very elaborate font. It takes a lot of practice, and it's worked hard to get here. So you'll show your aunt and uncle. If they want to touch it with your colors, they can. No pressure. Perfect. And if you'll lead us on the blessing on 21, and we will respond. Who at Adonai HaBarach? Baruch Adonai HaBarach Le'olam Va'ed. Baruch Adonai HaBarach Le'olam Va'ed. Baruch Adonai
Asher b'chachonu v'torami v'natan lanu Torah. Baruch Adonai Noten HaTorah.
Amen.
Vayivko Sar Hatabahim at Yosef Yitam Vashret Otam Vayuyamim Bamishmar Vayahamu Halom Shnehem Ish Halamo Balalech Echad Ish Kafifon Halmo Hamashkef Ha'ofer Asher Ramelech Mitzrayim Asher Asurim Vaveh HaSohar Vayavo Alehem Yosef Baboker Vayarar Otam Vahinam Zoafi.
We'll show them where you finished. Amen. And again, you can congratulate your uncle and aunt. Alright. Now you might be wondering why Ren is congratulating people when he's doing the reading. Because those who come up here, like everyone in this space, have been supporting Ren. So it's sort of a way of honoring our teachers and our family. So, doing a nice job of reading and congratulating. And of course, as we're coming close to yours, we call up your parents. Ya Amdu, La Aliyah Shlishi, Dan and I. This is the third and final reading, if you'll show them where you're going to be reading from. Baruch Adonai Baruch Baruch Adonai Baruch Le'olam Va'ed. Baruch Atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher b'chai banu mikol ha'amim v'natan lanu et Torato. Baruch Atah Adonai noten ha'torah. Amen.
Bish'ah, Esai Sefer O, Asher Ito B'mishmar, Beit Aronav Lemor, Ma'adua, B'nehem Ra'im Hayom, Vayomru Elav Halom Halamu V'ter Enoto, Vayomer Alehem, Yosef, Halo, Lelohim Pironim, Safruna, Li, Vaysaper, Sar, Hamashtim, Et Halamo, Yosef, Vayomer Lo, B'halomi, V'hinegefin Leponai.
They want to touch it with your teaching. Baruch Atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher natan lanu Torah emet v'chayei olam natan b'tolteinu. Baruch Atah Adonai noten ha'torah. Amen. Again, when you congratulate your parents, a great job. And we're going to invite you to stay up here, Dan and I. Because now we're calling Ren up. There's the tradition of the bar mitzvah is the bar mitzvah's own particular reading as a repetition of the last reading. So Ren will be reading those last three sentences again. And they're most appropriate. It's sort of when Joseph meets Pharaoh and sort of works everything out. Ren, I'm sure you're going to be an excellent negotiator when you grow up. And so with this reading, we invite Ren up by his Hebrew name. The tradition at the bar mitzvah is you're called up in front of the community. You're known by your name. There might be some people in the back there. What is Ren's name? But his Hebrew name is Naphtali. And so with great pleasure, we call you up. Ya'amod habachor bar mitzvah. Ya'amod, Ya'amod, Ya'amod. Naphtali ben Dan, which means son of Dan. Uven Nai and son of Nai. Ya'amod, Ya'amod, Ya'amod. And you'll take your seat and touch where you're reading from. I want you to hold the Yitzchayim as you say Baruch.
Baruch et Adonai Hamvarah.
Baruch Adonai Baruch Le'olam Va'ed.
Baruch Adonai Hamvarah Le'olam Va'ed. Baruch Atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam Asher Bachabanu Miko Hamim, Venatan Lanu et Torso, Baruch Atah Adonai Noten HaTorah.
Amen.
Amen. Mish'ah, Exar Sefer O, Asher Ito, Mishmar, Beit Avram, Lemor, Madua, Pnehem Ma'im, Hayom, Vayomru Elav, Halom, Halamu, Ufater, Enoto, Vayomer Alehem, Yosef, Halo, Elohim, Pironim, Safuna, Li, Vasaper, Sar Hamashkim, Echamo, Yosef, Vayomer, Lo, Bahalmi, Vahina Gefen, Lafanai. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher natan lanu Torah emet v'chayei olam nata b'tohenu Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah.
Amen. Your parents can congratulate you on a beautiful read. Really nice. And you should be very proud. Dan, you're going to be lifting the Torah. And since Bela is the next in your family to be a bat mitzvah, you are going to be, after you lift the Torah, you're going to place it into Bela's arms. And then Rin will share his interpretation of the Joseph story. And if you'll come over here, do it on that side, whichever side. You rise for the lifting of the Torah. You may be seated, and then if you'll share your interpretation.
As I mentioned earlier, the section of the Torah I read today is where Joseph is in prison and interprets Pharaoh's baker and cupbearer's dreams. This part of the story is particularly interesting to me, for it is the first time that Joseph speaks up for himself. It is also interesting that when Joseph speaks up for himself and talks of the injustice he has faced, that things begin to change for Joseph for the better. Thus, Joseph offers to interpret the baker and cupbearer's dreams, if they remembered Joseph for when they are set free, and promise to mention it to Pharaoh. The next part of my portion is where everything starts to fit together. When Pharaoh has a dream that no one can interpret, the cupbearer remembers Joseph for his talents and tells Pharaoh of Joseph's powers. Joseph is given the chance to appear before Pharaoh and tells Pharaoh that his dreams predict that there will be 7 years of prosperity, followed by 7 years of famine in the land of Egypt. Joseph also tells the Pharaoh that it would be wise to appoint someone to collect enough grain during the years of plenty in order to have enough rations for everyone during the years of famine. I believe that Joseph's actions are a form of social justice because Joseph is making sure that everyone throughout Egypt gets rations instead of just making sure that Pharaoh and the higher class citizens get rations. As I mentioned, the social justice and fighting hunger and poverty are part of my core values. I admire Joseph for seeing the big picture and thinking of the entire community of Egypt who will be affected by the famine. Another part of this story I like so much is that how everything starts to fit together. In a way, the story sort of reminds me of a puzzle that is almost finished and you have the final pieces in your hand. As you will recall, Joseph has a dream where his 11 brothers were symbolized by 11 stalks of wheat, and all 11 stalks bow down to Joseph. This dream, along with their father's favoritism of Joseph, and the older brothers' jealousy and lack of human decency, led them to sell Joseph into Egyptian slavery. As Joseph oversees the rationing of wheat, he knows his brothers will be affected by the famine and will have to come down to Egypt. Only now is he in the position of power, like his dream had predicted, The story, as I mentioned, fits together so nicely, which I appreciate, but even more than that is my appreciation of how Joseph handles the situation. I believe that Joseph handles his reunion with his brothers both as an opportunity to get revenge, but even more than that, is a chance to help them learn from their experiences and grow a conscience. The brothers who come down to Egypt to purchase wheat do not recognize Joseph, and Joseph uses his power to accuse them of spies and accuse them of being spies and throws them in prison. Joseph then overhears them saying that this must be karmic payback for what they did to their brother Joseph. The brothers are scared of the punishment, but not truly sorry for what they did to Joseph. Joseph then devised a plan to have them risk what's most sacred to them, the family, as a way to reunite them all. Joseph's plan requires putting the brothers through a lot of stress and tests to see if they've fully changed. It's not clear till the end whether Joseph will change his brothers and help them develop a real guilt for what they did, and it is not clear if Joseph will lean towards revenge or forgiveness. I like that Joseph seems like a real person, torn by the different emotions and often overcome to the point of tears, as he wrestles with holding back his desire to connect with his brothers before they have been fully tested. Lastly, I connect with the Joseph story because only by Joseph fully embracing Egyptian culture would he have been able to offer insights that he had to share. I believe that in my own life, that by traveling to Thailand in the summers, I too can appreciate this aspect of Joseph's journey. In conclusion, I think that Joseph's story ends the book of Genesis to leave us with a powerful message, that even the worst of people can change, that being his brothers, and that one focuses on doing the greatest good for the greatest number of people, like Joseph did for Egypt, and finally for his family, that one can have a great impact on the world around him. I guess the reason I like this story so much is that it's about not giving up and thinking through really tough situations. I like that the Torah emphasizes on the idea of finding solutions that make a difference for both one's family and one's community. I wish you all a Shabbat Shalom.
Thank you so much, and Shar Koach, may your strength be strengthened. At this point, we will be returning the Torah. Dan, if you'll bring up the Torah, and we rise for the eighth time.
Return Kaha Me'ushar Verachecha Chachei Noam V'chol Netivotecha Shalom Hashivenu Adonai V'nashuva Ha-ha-ye, Shamenu, Ha-ha-ye, Shamenu, Kokedem.
You may be seated, except for Dan and Ren and Nai. We invite you to say some kind words to Ren after his beautiful leading us in prayer, leading us in Torah, and offering so many wonderful insights.
So Rin, our lives drastically changed the moment we knew that we were going to have Rin as our firstborn. The impact that he has had in our lives is unmeasurable. We have learned and loved so much for the last 13 years. Rin is the first kid of our next generation on both sides of our family. For a long time, he was our center and was showered with love and attention from grandparents, aunts, and uncle. As much love as he received, he gave all that back and more to all of us. He loved spending time with Papa Susu, Josh, and Jess. He always longing to go to Thailand. It's like internal clock. He knows when it's time to go to see my parents and my sister. Despite the distance,
He developed a strong attachment to my parents and sisters. He cries and refused to talk about the plan if my father lost his cancer battle. He always asking about visiting Susu, giving her hugs, and listening closely to what she tried to tell him. He always has been a sweet, gentle, sensitive boy, listening well and wanting to be close by my side. For all these good qualities, he is just a kid with a lot of growing left to do. Sometimes my parenting style could be tough, but he managed to understand where I'm coming from. Rin was very patient with me and tries his best to be a good boy. Rin, with 13 years of growing, you are building more characters along the way. You are adjusting your mind and body, but I see your core is still the same. You value family and kindness. You strive to do well in school. Try listening more even when you don't want to. Older age comes with responsibility. Rin has shown us that he can be a responsible person, even though he is not perfect all the time. I believe he's learning and listening. I'm glad that we are here today to help celebrate Rin's early step into maturity of life. I hope we continue to give him good advice and support him to grow to become a valued member of our community.
So Rin, you know, I started out thinking that I would do the typical thing and talk about how great you are. But I really didn't, not that you're not, but I didn't think I could do justice to what everyone already knows about you and how the performance you've done, all the hard work. You're clearly a unique and wonderful kid, but you're not perfect, and you're not ready to be an adult, no more than I was at 13. But I remember that time. I didn't feel that long ago. But I remember when I was at 13 thinking, how obvious it was that the Israelites knew what they were doing, right? At 13, I was ready to take on my own responsibilities, to live my own life. Somehow we had sort of absconded and cast off, there was something the Israelites had done that we had lost in the modern world, where it ceded control of parents to far too late in life. I felt like at your age, I was ready to cast off the yoke of parental control. I think that as a parent, things feel a little bit different now. And I realized that it feels totally crazy that a 13-year-old would be an adult, now or in Israel, 2,000 years ago, or at any time. I just really have trouble believing that any 13-year-old anywhere, any time, is ready for full independence and responsibility as an adult. This is both good and bad, right? You don't have to serve in the military. There's a lot you don't have to do. You don't have to fill out your own taxes. But you're also not expected to manage your own affairs with the thought for the long term. So thinking about this, why do we have a bar mitzvah at age 13? A lot of other cultures do it older. And this is something that I hope you'll think about, but I can tell you what I've been thinking. Is that I don't think, now you're 13, now you've done your bar mitzvah, it's phenomenal, and we're so proud of you, but you have not crossed some imaginary line to become an irrevocable adult. Really, what I would like you to see this as is the beginning of the official start of becoming a mature adult. This marks the time when you will really begin to define who you are and who you will be as an adult in a way that, if not yet totally malleable, is going to be harder and harder to change with each passing month and each passing year. And so that's why I think 13 makes so much sense. It's a really great time for you to step back, to celebrate who you are, to celebrate your heritage, but also to make a commitment to shape your life in a really deliberate, thoughtful way. As your parents, we have done our best to give you a foundation to build off of, and we'll continue to do that, whether you like it or not. And I think likely a lot of the time you will hope we'll back off, but we won't, we promise. But things are going to be increasingly up to you. You have your own complement of strengths and weaknesses, and even your weaknesses can be made to serve you rather than limit you. the world you live in now, the world you will live in, whether it's in 5 years or 25 years, is going to present a lot of challenges, but also a lot of opportunity. I know you have the creativity and courage to take advantage of these. Every day is precious, and your time and your energy are in the end your own to apply as you wish. But in the end, these are all you have to create the monuments, to perform the deeds which will be your monuments. Make us proud. Make these monuments ones and deeds, ones that you will be proud to have known as your own. I love you so much.
You guys will just stay up here just for a minute because we're going to do a blessing. But Rin, I want to say again, Mazel Tov. You did so great today. We were all so impressed by your beautiful chanting, your singing, reading of Torah, and your wonderful insights into the Joseph story. I just want to restate a few things that you said and put it in the frame that the tradition of Judaism asks of us to use the Torah as a mirror, to look deeply at ourselves. And I feel like you really did that with the Joseph story. You're interested in puzzles. You saw the story sort of through the light of the puzzles. You also are someone who is keenly aware of social injustice, and you offered a wonderful interpretation of how Joseph didn't just think of himself, but thought of the larger community as well. Someone who wants to make things right. You used your own values as a way to see the text, to see how Joseph was wrestling with his own situation. And I think also your insight about how that you're someone who's a world traveler, and that has given you insights into how to relate to people and understand what it means to be fully human. And Joseph also having been in Egypt, living there for a while, that gave him many strengths that maybe people wouldn't notice if they hadn't been a world traveler like yourself. I also want to say about Rin is that, like Joseph, because of COVID and because we had to delay today's bar mitzvah, Joseph throughout the story never shirks anything that's thrown at him. He takes it on. He doesn't back away. And throughout this process, we had a little more time. I said, good, let's learn a few more things. You always were like, okay, let's learn a few more things. So I felt you were very much like Joseph. You're willing to take it on, not back away from the next challenge. So again, Mazel Tov for leading us so beautifully. If your dad would place your tallit over your head like this, the talit's also used to help us focus. And I'm going to ask Rin that you look at me for a moment, and then I'm going to ask you in a moment to look at all the smiling faces, all the love in this sanctuary, this nature sanctuary. Take it in. Take in today's. Take in your own pride, in your own family's pride. If you'll take a look around, take a long, slow look. All these people love you and support you. If your parents will hold their hands on your shoulder, I'm going to say the blessing of peace. Yivarechecha Adonai v'yishmerecha. May God bless you and keep you. Ye'er Adonai panav elecha v'yasem lecha shalom. May all your journeys be filled with peace, meaning, and joy. We all say, Amen. You take down your tallit, Rin. Get big hugs from your parents. The following meditation on page 24, the Elenu, asks us to take today's inspiration out into the world. We rise as Rin leads us in the Elenu. Please join in if you know it.
Hallelujah, Shabbat, La'adon, HaKol, L'Tekila, L'Etzer, Bereshit, Shalom, Asanu, Kubiye Ha'arzot, V'lo Samanu, Kamishpahot HaMa'animah, Shalom, Sam, Kalkin Yukachem, V'gora Yukaho HaMonam, Lachnu Korim, Umishtahavim, Umodim, Mithne Melech, Malchei HaMachim, Akadosh Baruch Hu. נאמר, והיה אדוני למלך על כל הארץ, ויום ההוא, יהיה אדוני אחד, ושמו אחד.
Just take a moment to read quietly the Elenu interpretation. We turn to page 25 and we remain standing as a community for the mourner's cottage. This is an opportunity to think of those who are no longer with us, but whose memory inspires us. I invite you to think of those who are dear to you who are no longer with us. Please join me. It is your tradition. Yikadal v'yikadash shemei rabbah. Alma dibra hirutei v'yamliv malhutei. V'chayechon u'yumechon u'chayei l'chol beit Yisrael. Va'adala u'yizman karev yimru amen. Yehei shmei rabbah mevara v'alam u'almei amayim. Yiparak v'yishtabach v'yipar v'yitramam v'yitnasei. V'yitadar v'yitaleh v'yitalal. Shemei v'kudashav v'bri. Ve'ela mikol birchata v'shirata v'ishbachata v'nechamata da'amira ve'alma v'yimru. Amen. Yehei shlama rabba min shemaya v'chayim aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael v'yimru. Amen. Say shalom b'mamav huya say shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael v'yimru. Amen. You may be seated, except of course for Ren. Ren, if you'll come around to the front of the table, we invite your parents to stand next to you and your sister for the Shehechianu. On page 26, this is a blessing to acknowledge not just your accomplishments, Ren, because yesterday is a big accomplishment for you, but it also speaks so well for your family and your community. So, with great pleasure, I will say the Shehechianu, and then Lisa will sing it. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, Shehechianu, v'kiyamanu, v'higianu, l'zman hazeh. Amen.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, shehechianu v'kiyamanu, v'higianu l'zman hazeh.
Blessed art thou, O Lord our God, ruler of the universe, who has given us life, sustained us, and helped us to reach this very precious moment. Amen.
Amen.
I'm going to, now we're going to give you, Ren, a chance to say some kind words, but I've realized that your parents have some announcements.
So we have a few moments left. So after we finish, we're gonna have time for our mingling before dinner. So when we finish, if you wouldn't mind, bring the chairs to the dining table.
All right, and Ren, I know you have some appreciations you wish to share. So I'm going to invite Bela to sit with your parents, and Ren, if you'll share your appreciation.
My mom taught me a lot of things, but one of the things she taught me is to be yourself and not care what anyone thinks as long as you're happy. Something I appreciate about her is that she makes it a priority to make sure I really know the Thai culture. She has done that by teaching me the language and bringing me to Thailand and spending time with my relatives there, teaching me the Buddhist traditions like giving rice to the monks at the Thai temples. One memory I really like that I shared with my mom was riding around Paris last summer on electric scooters. This is one of my favorite memories with her because it was amazing being able to ride down the streets of Paris at night when it was quiet but beautiful, seeing all the buildings and glowing lights. While my mom can be really serious, she has and has high standards, she has this fun, playful side. But I also appreciate her having such high standards for how to treat people, because it has helped me become a better person, whether it's teaching me the importance of respecting people or showing how to care for others. Thank you for being there for me. My dad has always been teaching me a lot of things, but one thing that he taught me was that working hard pays off. And that saying has stuck in my mind, pushing me to do my best, whether it's performing well in school or doing my best in sports. My dad always has a good sense of how to balance work with spending time with family. Even though he works so hard over the week, he makes sure to leave plenty of time for us because he realizes the importance of being there in our lives. I always remember each evening after a long day of work, he still has the energy to cook for us and take turns making dinner with my mom. Every time I look at all the pictures with our family, there isn't a single picture where he isn't with us. As well as a dad, he is also a teacher to me, and many other things. He has always been helping me when I need it, whether it's for school or work or life lessons. I can never imagine my life without you. I love you so much. Layla, my sister. I may not always show it, but I know how lucky I am to have her around. Layla is always lighthearted and kind and really fun to be around. She is such a good friend and companion as well as a sister. Being able to experience so many adventures with her is really meaningful to me because she always finds a way to make things more memorable. One memory that stands out the most is when we went to a desert in India and we got to talk together at night under the stars. I remember it being so fun and amazing. It's great to be able to have so much in common because I get to share my hobbies with her, like sports, playing basketball and football. We're always happy to talk together and have fun conversations. I know my life wouldn't be the same without her. Thank you for being such a great sister. Alan and Susan, my grandparents. Since I was little, I would always spend time with them, like having family dinners and sleeping over at their house and hanging out. They have been by my side for as long as I can remember, and they are so generous and incredibly loving. I've had a lot of great memories with them. I remember when I was young, my grandmother would take me to her work pretty often. She was an education director at a school in Newfield, and every time I would go there, I would be right by her side when she was working. Every time I'm with her, she is so loving and thoughtful. She always goes out of her way to do things for people, and it is always a pleasure to be around her. She almost always brings something for us when she comes to our house. Thank you, Susie, for setting an example of how to care for each other. As I've gotten older, my grandfather and I have spent more and more time together. Whenever I'm with him, it's always relaxing, whether it's watching a movie together or just having a nice conversation. My grandfather always has a sense of humor. Even if his jokes aren't funny, he always tries to make me laugh. My grandfather always has a good advice to share with me whenever I need it. Papa and Susu, thank you for being there. I'm so glad to have you in my life. Dai and Yan, my grandparents from Thailand, have always had a very important relationship with me, even though we have different lifestyles and live in different places. I'm very glad to be born in a time period where connecting with people over long distances is easy, because if it weren't for the technology we have now, I would almost never be able to communicate with my grandparents. They always enjoy spending time with me, doing many activities together. My grandmother and I would a lot of times go to the market in Thailand to buy food and clothing. She also likes meeting up with her friends and introducing me with them. I really like hanging out with my grandfather, watching kickboxing on the TV before dinner. I love when I spend time with them at their house, eating chicken and sticky rice for breakfast. They have hammock outside the sun, near the in the sun, near the mango tree. Being there is so relaxing, and it's one of the best places to go to let go of my worries. Yui, my aunt, who lives in Thailand, is very special to me. Yui took care of me for most of the first year of my life, which is why she is one of the closest relatives, even though she lives thousands of miles away. Every time I go to Thailand, she is waiting at the airport for us and gives me hugs like she's never been happier to see me. She's always making she always makes time to be with us and goes on a lot of trips with us. We have been spending a lot of time with her since I was little, and we have such a strong bond. Seeing Yuri is one of the main reasons I love going to Thailand. Whenever I'm there, she makes sure we do lots of fun activities together, like going to soccer games and riding in paddle boats in the park lake. Thank you, Yuri, for always making sure we feel so close, even though we live so far apart. รินคิดถึงตากับยายกับยุ้ยขอบคุณที่อยู่กับริน Jess, my aunt, is very important to me because she is such a kind person and always supports me. She is a positive person who cares a lot about what I think. Whenever we have family dinners, which occur quite often, she always wants to have a conversation with me and is interested in hearing about my experiences I had over the week, at school, or life in general. Jess is also a very open-minded and inclusive person, so everyone, even people she has never met before. She has always been one of the nicest people I've ever met in my life, and she motivates me to be a caring person and bring kindness to people. Thank you for the love and warmth you brought to my life. My Uncle Josh has been a role model for me since I was very young. He showed me that if you work hard and believe in yourself, you will eventually become successful and prevail in life. Josh has always made time to be with me, even when he had a very busy schedule. For instance, when Josh took me to my first NFL football game, he knew it was something I really wanted to do. Even though he knew the game would go on all night and take up a lot of his time, Josh still really wanted to take me, because he knew it would make me really happy. We still have pictures from that night, and every time I look at them, I smile. Thank you for showing me how important it is to value family. And I would also like to thank everybody here who has supported me today and throughout my life. I couldn't have done it without you. Thank you. I'd also like to thank Evan and Lisa for supporting me and making this such a special day.
You're so welcome, Ren. We will be concluding the service with a Don Olam, rousing version. Ren, if you will lead us in a Don Olam. Dan, are you coming up for this too? We're on page 26. And then there'll be a blessing over the bread and wine, which will symbolize the beginning of festivities. And then we can sing Tima Tova Malva Festival. And if you'll lead us in a Don Olam.
Adon Olam Hashem Allah, V'terem kol yitzir mira, V'eit nasach v'hef sokol, Azai melech shamoni kra, V'hare kitlot hakol, Levado yiloch nora, V'hu hayat, V'hu holeh, V'hu yiyeh, V'tifara, V'hu ha Behin sheni, L'ham shilo, L'hachbira, V'li reishi, V'li tachli, V'lo ha'oz, V'hamishra, V'hu ehli, V'hayagoli, V'tzor hevli, V'et zara, V'hu nisi, Umanosli, V'nat kosi, V'et yakra, Yado Akiruhi, Isham Va'ira, Ruhi, Javiyati, Adonai, Baruch.
Well done. Would Nai come up to join Dan for the blessing of bread and wine? Well, Dan's getting that together. Nai, can I just say to you, Mazel Tov, congratulations. You also, Dan. Thank you. You guys did a great job, and it's been a pleasure studying with you guys. I'll miss our Zoom calls on Sunday morning.
Thank you so much for helping us along for this more than a year now.
Yes.
We've been working together.
Yes. I feel like I'm part of your family. You guys are stuck with me. Okay, so Dan, if you'll lead us in the Kiddush, the blessing over the wine.
Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, borei pri hagafen.
Amen.
Oh, that was.
Here's the traditional response. Alright, and you'll hold up the challah.
Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, hamotzi lachem min haaretz.
Amen. I think you guys are going to be leaving the house. If anyone wants to come up and take a piece, they're welcome to do so. And we join together to sing. Remember to bring your chairs over there. To sing Sima Tov. Sadly, we are praying and running. We have to be on our way. So, Ren, Mazel Tov, Sima Tov, Mazel Tov, Mazel Tov, Sima Tov, Sima Tov, Mazel Tov, Mazel Tov, Sima Tov, Sima Tov, Mazel Tov, Mazel Tov, Sima Tov. That was pretty well. Passage right there. All right, Shabbat Shalom, everyone.
Shabbat shalom.